Hey, it's Kindle, and here are 8 random books that I think you should read. Okay, first, let's start out with sci fi. One of my all time favorite series is the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells, which is a series of sci fi novellas and full length novels. The premise is that our main character, Murderbot, is a security unit, which is a robot made with human parts. So they are a person, but they have capabilities of a robot, and since they're a security unit, they have a lot of weapons inside them. They also have a chip inside them called the governor model, which basically controls them and makes sure that they follow all human directions. And if they don't, they can insta-kill them. Murderbot is not about that insta-kill life and doesn't want to blindly follow directions anymore. So one day hacks their governor model so that they are a completely free sentient sec unit. And instead of running away from the company, Murderbot just kind of still hangs around because all they really want to do is just watch TV shows and live their life. And of course, life isn't that easy. So when they're on an assignment with a particular crew from the Preservation Alliance, a set of dangerous circumstances happen that leads to them discovering that Murderbot is a sentient free robot. Luckily, the Preservation Alliance is outside of the corporation rim and believes that security units are basically enslaved by companies and that they shouldn't have those governor models and should be free. So Murderbot ends up entrusting these humans, and the series continues with Murderbot going on various adventures trying to figure out what to do with their life as a free sentient robot human hybrid, how to have a relationship with humans, how to trust humans, and how to have a relationship with other AI sentient robots. Murderbot is witty and hilarious and just over it most of the time, but is also really kind. The world that Martha Wells builds is very anti-corporation, anti-capitalism, and also super queer, which I love in a sci-fi novel. And you end up falling in love with not just Murderbot, but all the characters they come across. Even if you've never read sci-fi book before, I feel like this is a really good entry into the genre because the first novella is super short and is so easy to breeze through. Because of its length, it moves very quickly and is action packed while also being funny, interesting, and mysterious. Okay, there's also a TV show being made about this series by Apple TV, starring a Skarsgård brother. And I've seen the first couple episodes and I don't love it. So the Murderbot Diaries, the series, is funny. I will give you that. But the TV show is apparently really leaning on the humor, and I just don't love the tone of it as much as I love the book series. I'll be honest, I've only seen 3. There's only 3 out right now, so it might get better, but so far, I'm not impressed. And my biggest gripe is how they treat the preservation crew humans. They live outside of the corporation rim, so they don't believe in all of this capitalist contract robot slavery nonsense. And their homeworld society is also polyamorous, so they take multiple partners and have very large families. And in the books, it's just a different way of life. But in the show, they play them up as woohoo hippies, and that is annoying. One of the reasons why Murderbot ends up entrusting them so much is because the crew, especially Dr. Mensa, ends up being really capable humans and Murderbot trusts their decisions. The show is just making them out to be a lot dumber and annoying and playing up their anti-corporation culture for laughs instead of them just being ethically and morally correct people, and that annoys me. People also have critiqued that they don't love that Alexander Skarsgård is so male presenting because Murderbot very much reads as androgynous. But I do think the show is doing a good enough job presenting the idea that Murderbot is a person but is not a human, so doesn't subscribe to the human gender norms. They even showed their body naked and they have no sexual organs at all. So I'm not super mad about that aspect of it, even though it would have been nice to see a more androgynous person on screen. So yeah, that's my rant about the TV show. So far, it's only covered the events of the first book, so I don't know how far they're going to take it because I don't know if they've been renewed for a second season or not. But I'll probably continue watching it just because I love the series so much and will take any chance to live in the world and the characters a little bit more. My second book recommendation is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zepin. This is a contemporary fiction novel that came out not that long ago. This is one of those books that I actually think gets better with time. Like, I rated it like a 4 stars when I first read it, but like the characters of the story has not left my brain since I finished reading it, and I love discussing the characters with friends, so I definitely think it's more of a 5-star. So this book follows a lifelong friendship between two characters, Sam and Sadie. They meet in a hospital when they are children and strike up a friendship, and then meet again when they're in college, and they decide to create a video game together. This video game ends up being a blockbuster hit, which leads them to create their own company, creating more video games. It focuses not only on Sam and Sadie's friendship throughout their lives, but how the fame and the wealth and the pressure to create affects them as people and their other relationships. Sam and Sadie are such like fully realized humans. One of the biggest critiques I see about this book is that Sam and Sadie aren't super likable, which I completely disagree. I love them both, but they both just make bad decisions sometimes, which we all do as people. But like being inside their heads, you can completely see where they're coming from. Like, they're not perfect people. They don't communicate effectively. They remember events throughout their lives differently, but they still have so much love and appreciation with each other. And like Gabrielle Zepin uses the lens of video games in like such a beautiful way, and like the act of like playing with each other and creating with each other and creating for each other, and how like beautiful and meaningful and hurtful that can be sometimes, and like how beautiful and inspiring and vulnerable that can be. And like this is a book about love, but it's also about friendship and what love means when you've known someone like a lifetime. And there's also like great social critique in this, and it's handled in just such an effective, beautiful way. I think Gabrielle Zepin is a great writer. There's this one chapter of the book that, like, if you know, you know, she breaks form from the other chapters and is written just so beautifully, and she just handles her characters with such care. I think if you like complicated characters and lifelong friendships, and if you like video games, I definitely recommend this, even though I think it'll be a great read if you don't play video games. I think overall it's just one of the best novels I've ever read. Speaking of Gabrielle Zepin, my other recommendation is her YA novel Elsewhere. I do not know many people who have read this. It came out in like 2005 or 2006, but it is one of my favorite YA novels. Elsewhere is about a 15-year-old girl, Liz, who dies in a bicycle accident and ends up on a boat on her way to Elsewhere, which is basically heaven. It is a utopian city where you arrive after you've died, and you basically start aging backwards until you've become a baby again. And then once you're a baby, you're pushed down a river to be reincarnated. She ends up living with her grandma, who she's never met before because she passed before she was even born. And her grandma is like in her like 30s, late 20s by this point, because she has been aging backwards that entire time. And Liz is like pissed off that she's dead, but because of the way Elsewhere works, she has like 15 more years as she ages backwards to accept and deal with her death and her grief, and also still gets to live. Like, she still gets to have new experiences in this city. Like, she was pissed that she didn't get her driver's license and she learns how to drive. She was mad that she didn't get to fall in love, and she ends up falling in love in one of like the most heartfelt love stories ever. This is just such a comfort read for me. It's my favorite concept of the afterlife, which like combines the idea of heaven and reincarnation in one. The idea of heaven and like living eternally low-key scares me, which is why I like the idea of reincarnation more. But I also like the thought that after you pass, you get time to not only like come to terms with your death, but also have more life experiences and also like see loved ones who have passed away. It's definitely the ideal afterlife, in my opinion. And since this is a YA book, it also deals with like grief and death, but it never gets like too heavy or too existential, which is why it's such a comfort read as well. Gabrielle Zepin is a great writer, and this is definitely an underrated book of hers that I think anyone should take the time to read, because it's just a great view of death. So my next book is a epic queer fantasy that honestly was extremely popular last year, so you've probably heard of it. It's The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. So easy synopsis is The Spear Cuts Through Water is about two warriors who are escorting a god who escaped their prison to the sea so that they can be free. And while they're on this journey, they're being chased by the royal family who had imprisoned this god and like their royal guards and whatnot. But the way the book is like so much more than that, like Simon Jimenez writes in like first person, second person, third person. The story is being told in a dream in a underwater theater where it's being presented as a play. It is like just so bananas how Simon Jimenez was able to write this. I wish I could even like explain why I love this book so much, because like the story is good. Like the journey that these our warriors go on, who they are as people. One of them goes on like a redemption story. One of them is like just trying to find their place in the world. Also, they fall in love, is like very interesting. But it's also just the way Simon Jimenez writes that makes this book a 5-star and like life changing. Like there were times where I had to put this book down and like walk around my room because I was like, what do you mean? Like how did you just do that? Like as a writer. And then there's just so many like good fantasy concepts in here that I love. Like I love old gods who are like vengeful and pissed off, and like they have turtles who all are psychically linked, so they are used as like telephones that can communicate long distances. So it's like really fun, but it's also really brutal and also really heartwarming and just like vastly interesting as well. My only critique will be that this book is long. I think their journey is only like 5 days, but you feel every one of those days. Despite that, this book was just so beautiful. I think about the writing style and a specific turn in the book that like shouldn't have surprised me, but like surprised me so bad I like had to put the book down and like instantly go to my roommates and explain the entire plot line and like why this isn't even I don't even think it was a plot twist. It was just something happened in that book that just shocked me so much. It like forever changed the way I think about writing. So yeah, highly recommend. Switching up, the next book I'm recommending is I'll Tell You in Person by Chloe Caldwell. These are short personal essays all about Chloe Caldwell's early life as a writer living in New York. And then I think she goes to like Oregon and then ends up moving back to New York. And like most of the chapters are kind of like typical personal essays. I mean, it is like her life, so I don't want to like bash on it, but it's very much like she falls in love, she falls out of love, she starts drinking, she gets into drugs, she's a writer, uninspired, doesn't know what to do with her life. But I will say the chapter that made this book such a standout set of personal essays is the chapter Maggie and Me, A Love Story. If you don't read anything else in this book, I think you should read this chapter. It's basically about how Chloe ends up becoming friends with a woman named Maggie who is quite older than her. She's a yoga instructor and a writer as well. And they've heard of each other in writing circles, but she finally goes up to her one day at a yoga class and they become fast friends. Ugh, the way their friendship and relationship develops is just like so beautiful and like inspiring as well, because in the current day and age there's definitely like an adult loneliness pandemic. We're so insular and isolated as a society. It's hard to make friends as an adult. It's hard to make meaningful platonic relationships once you've left a school setting, and especially if you like work from home and just aren't around people as much, it's hard to make those connections. So reading about Chloe and Maggie and their friendship blooming as an adult, and which is like so nice to read, and like the acknowledgement that it is possible, that like, you know, life is short but life is also long. Like we do have the opportunity to meet new people and make meaningful relationships and connections. And I think that's just like a really important reminder. The way Chloe writes about her friendship and love with Maggie was just so beautiful and special, and like I was honored to read it. Like it's just like it's a story she could have kept to herself because it did feel very personal, but she shared it with the world, and I think I'm honestly better for it. Staying on the short story train, my next recommendation is What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours by Helen Oyeyemi. These are fictional short stories that are kind of weird. They do center on the theme of keys and like books and doors and locks. My favorite story in the collection is Sugar Can't Sweeten Her Tea, which is about a house that has like 1,000 doors that like lock and unlock, but it's also about a stepdaughter who experiences her first big cancellation. Basically, a singer that she is in love with put in prison for severely beating a woman, and she goes through all the grief of realizing her idol is a bad person. At first, she doesn't believe it. She thinks it had to have been someone else. She thinks the girl is lying. She thinks the girl did it to herself. She thinks the girl deserved it at some point. And then she comes around to acceptance and then needing and wanting an apology from him and like hating the way, even if he did apologize, how society would accept it. And like all of the anger and hurt and revenge she wants from him. Even though this short story came out in like 2016, I think it's even more prevalent today with the way cancel culture is and who gets to be famous and stay famous and what society forgives and decides not to forgive. Especially as a young person, when the parasocial relationships you have with your idols are like so extreme and so heartfelt, the heartbreak you feel when they disappoint you is like real and visceral. And Helen Oyeyemi does a great job of like capturing that feeling. There are so many other really good stories in this collection as well. There's a story about a school of puppeteers that gets kind of weird. If you don't like puppets, stay away from that one. There's a story of two art thieves who fall in love and leave each other and find each other again. And I think there's like a lot to chew on with this book. I've read it several times and have come away with something different each time. And I also like that they are short stories. So like she doesn't just spell everything out for you. I think some stories are really left open-ended and to your own interpretation, which some people may not like, but I certainly enjoy. Back to nonfiction, my next recommendation is Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness by Susannah Callahan. This is actually a movie, but I haven't seen it, so I have no idea how it compares to the book. But this is a memoir about when Susannah Callahan was like 24. She was writing for a newspaper in New York, and she starts to get like really wild symptoms. She gets paranoid. She thinks her like apartment is infested with bugs and roaches when like it isn't. She starts to like forget things and have violent outbursts until one day she wakes up in a hospital strapped down to the bed and isn't able to move or talk, and she has no idea how she got there. This book is about her journey through the healthcare system and like how shit it is, but also how scary it can be when doctors don't know what's wrong with you. Luckily, she had a like supportive family and boyfriend who stood by her side that entire time and really advocated for her because she went through so many tests and so many different doctors who couldn't figure out what was wrong. Her symptoms were just getting worse and worse. She couldn't function like she used to. She became a completely different person. And like for some people, though, that would result in them just getting like locked up in a psych ward. If they have no one to advocate for them and like refuse to take no for an answer, they can just get like locked up away for life. But luckily, Susannah had that support system, and she finally found a doctor who told her, "We're gonna find out what's wrong with you." And like reading about how that doctor like discovered what was wrong with her brain, I'm just like, how, like, I love reading about smart people doing smart things. So that was super interesting. And like it's also just so baffling because one of the first doctors she went to like just wrote her off as having alcohol withdrawal, even though she wasn't an alcoholic and wasn't like a huge partier. She was a normal 24-year-old and drank like a normal 24-year-old. But the doctor was just like, stop partying and your symptoms should be fine. And like the healthcare system, doctors just brush people off so easily. It's so frustrating. If you like memoirs, this one is a great one. Susannah Callahan is a great writer, and the entire book was so fascinating and sad and inspiring. And I don't know how the movie is, but maybe I'll watch it. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments if it's any good and if it compares to the book. Okay, my last recommendation, and I'm gonna need you to hear me out. It's The Host by Stephenie Meyer. Listen. Yes, she wrote Twilight. Yes, she did. But after she wrote the Twilight series, she wrote this sci-fi YA novel called The Host, Also got made into a movie. It's pretty okay if you want to watch it. And I actually really love this book. It's a standalone. I think she was going to make it into a series, but never ended up doing so, which like I'm fine with. The story concludes and has like a satisfying ending. Okay, but this is a sci-fi book about Earth being invaded by aliens, but not like invaded like you think. It's more of a body snatchers situation where humans start getting like infected by alien parasites who take over their bodies. And like whenever you're taken over, your eyes like turn a like bright blue, indicating you're like an alien now. And this book is told from the perspective of one of these aliens whose name is Wanda. She gets put into the body of a rebel girl, Melanie, who has been on the run from these aliens with her younger brother and her boyfriend Jared for like a really long time. And at first, Wanda's just kind of like living her life and she has dreams of Melanie's family. But then Melanie like wakes up inside her and Melanie's able to talk to Wanda, which is like unusual and not heard of. Like usually once the alien gets put into the body, the human is like basically put to sleep or sometimes killed. But Melanie has such like a strong personality, she refused to go down basically. And like Melanie's fear and love for her family are so strong like in her body that Wanda ends up feeling it as well. And like because she also has Melanie's memories, she ends up like loving her family just as much as Melanie does and ends up wanting to help her find them and make sure they're safe. So they start working together to go find where her brother and boyfriend ended up, because as far as they know, they were not captured by aliens, which starts them on like a long, interesting journey. There is like alien police called Seekers, and there's a certain Seeker that is on their tail that they have to constantly run from. Dude, this is like such a solid sci-fi book that like just let go that it's Stephenie Meyer and like read this with just fresh eyes. And I think a lot of people would like it. Like, okay, it's not like groundbreaking, but it is a fun sci-fi read. Like the world building of the alien race is interesting. Wanda and Melanie are both fun characters to read about, and they're both so different. You like really root for them and like root for the human rebellion, but also learn a lot about the alien race. Like Wanda explains, like this is the first planet that they've been on that have shown like a lot of resistance to them, because usually they're just like passengers experiencing the world. Like they've lived on a planet where the main species were like flowers or spiders or bears, but they haven't come across like people before. So then it's just like, you know, the interesting concept of what makes a person, what makes a human, and then all those like messy relationships with it. I will say there is a bit of a love triangle in this, but it's like so not the main story. Like don't worry about it too much. But also if you love like love triangles and like messiness, it's there. So yeah, that's my Stephenie Meyer plug. Oh, I also think about this book a lot because she mentioned somewhere that she got the idea for this book while driving through the deserts of Nevada or New Mexico or something. And I think about that all the time whenever I'm driving a long journey in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, oh, Stephenie Meyer got her idea while driving. I should think of my own book plotline. And then sometimes my brain will just like lead down a road of like sci-fi and fantasy, and it's a good time. So yeah, those are my 8 random book recommendations. If you've read any of these or are going to, please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, follow me on social media, and do all of that jazz. I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye!